Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go. Smart investments, money flow.
Hey babe, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about everything that you need to know when it comes to your retirement plan through your employer. So we're talking about 401ks, 403bs, and all the information that you should definitely know to make sure that you're maximizing that benefit.
That is excellent because having a good 401k plan through your employer can be a total game changer, but we want to make sure that you optimize the account and don't just enroll and then never look at it again.
Because even though I think obviously most people know what a 401k plan, know what their 403b is, I still think that there's a large number of people who don't fully understand how it functions and all the different details that they need to pay attention to within that plan to make sure that it's tailored towards what they're trying to accomplish. And that, like I said, you're maximizing the plan itself. Because, little news flash, plans do vary from employer to employer. There are some things that are, the same across the board, but there are definitely variances in what your 401k plan offers you based upon the employer that you're at and how much they want to actually put into the plan itself.
All right, so where do you want to start? What do people need to know first?
The first thing that you need to know when you get a new job is, do you have to manually enroll into your 401k plan or are you automatically enrolled? Also with that, is there a waiting period before you can actually enroll in the plan? Now, I would say that's not normally how I see it in regards to having to wait, but there are still, jobs out there that require you to wait maybe 30, 60, 90 days of being employed before you can actually partake in the 401k plan.
Okay. What is your experience with people having to enroll themselves manually versus being auto-enrolled?
I would say most people are auto-enrolled. Normally, you have to manually unenroll, but upon, being employed and going through that process, they automatically enroll you into the plan.
Okay. And then once you're enrolled, what do you need to know?
So the first thing is once you're enrolled, you need to normally set up an online profile so that you can access the 401k plan through whatever provider you have. And once you set up that online portal, you do want to go in. If you are enrolled, the first thing you want to know is, hey, how much am I contributing? Because if you're automatically enrolled, that means you're also automatically enrolled in a certain percentage to contribute.
Oh, what do they usually set as your contribution when you're auto-enrolled?
I would say that normally if your employer does provide a match, I would say they normally auto-enroll you for the match. So that might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less than what you want to contribute. But the idea is that you want to know what that number is and then make sure that it aligns with what you are looking to contribute.
Okay. A good company match is a game changer.
That is a huge game changer. I mean, have friends that have matches, company matches 6-7% now.
Yeah, I saw somebody on Instagram recently, another content person, and they get an 8% match. I was like, holy crap, where do you work? I need to work there.
And so what that means is that if you have an 8% match at 100%, that means that for every dollar that you're putting in up to 8% of your salary, your employer is going to contribute that also.
So you're getting 16%. I mean, it's significant. That's super significant.
I would say that is the number one benefit of a 401k plan is if your employer provides a great match because it is essentially free money.
Yeah, that's something I've always told Brandon, hey, in my next job, and I get 4.5%, but in my next job, I'm like, man, let me get up to that 7-8% mark because that's a game changer.
And knowing that information can be one of the things that when you're looking for a new career or a new job and you have maybe a couple different options that you might want to look at their benefits package and see what their match is, because that might be the tipping factor for one employer over another. Now, since we are talking about the match, we do also want to, talk about knowing what the vesting period is for that match, because you're not necessarily entitled to 100% of your employer's match on day one of them matching it. Yeah. So normally what I've seen is more like a 4-year vesting schedule. And normally that's a little bit over the course of that time. So you have a gradual vesting schedule. So after you've been there for 1 year, you might be entitled to 25% of what your employer has contributed to your plan. Second year, you're entitled to 50%. Third year, 75%, and so on until you reach 100%. And then afterwards, once you reach that 100% mark and if you were to change jobs, then you would be 100% entitled to that money that your employer has matched. But if you leave prior to that 100%, then you might be entitled to none or just a certain percentage based upon the vesting schedule.
Right. So those are things that you want to look at, especially if you are getting a high match. Maybe you wait until you hit year 4 to leave that company if you're going to be starting that job search over, so that
Especially if you're close to it.
Yeah, so that you're not missing out on that money, right? I mean, people call it free money, but really it should be considered part of your total compensation package. But if it's the matter of like, hey, let me leave 6 months early, or I miss out on, $60,000 or whatever it might be, those are things that you need to look into because, again, we never want to leave money on the table.
And the thing is, too, is that sometimes the employer match could be a little bit complicated in regards to how they word it. They could be like, up to the first 2% we'll match it at 100%. The next 2% will match at 50%. So it can be a little bit wordy in regards to how they actually do it. But the idea is that you make sure that you understand what your employer match is and do your best to take full advantage of that.
Yeah. People talk about target date funds and how is the 401k invested. Can we talk about that?
So with how the 401k plan is invested, let's just say you're auto-enrolled into the plan. And normally what they do is that they auto-enroll you into a fund also. So normally the auto-enrollment fund that they choose is what's called a target date fund. Now, what a target date fund is that it takes the approximate year in which you would become retirement age. So approximately the year that you would turn 60 years old. All right. Now, as you are further away from that date, the target date fund is more aggressive. Reason being is that you have time on your side. So you want to go ahead and take advantage of that time and be more aggressive in your investment so that you can actually maximize your growth. Now, as you get closer and closer to that date of retirement, the target date fund goes from being more aggressive to becoming more conservative, because the idea is that you're getting closer to retirement and you don't want to take as much risk because you want to protect the growth that you've had over that time. And it's not a terrible investment by any means. It's one of those ones where you just set it and leave it, and it's not going to treat you terrible because it's going to do what you overall would need to do over the course of, your work life when it comes to managing that investment from a asset allocation with the risk standpoint.
But can you choose to be more aggressive if you wanted to be, even if your time horizon is getting closer to that retirement age?
100. You have full flexibility to choose from any of the funds that are offered within your 401k plan. Now, do keep in mind that you do have limitations in regards to what you can invest in only based off of what your employer plan allows you to. So this is one of the things I've seen where there's a variance. If you work at an employer that puts more money into their 401k plan, maybe at a bigger corporation, then you may have more options to invest in. As compared to if you're at a smaller company, you might have less options. And the reason being is that variance does have a cost associated with it from the employer standpoint as far as how much money they're paying for the plan. But you need to also understand, what are your options? What do you have available to invest in? And also understanding what the difference means of all the different investment options that you have. One of the things that I normally do is that, with Justice 401k plan, we went more aggressive than a target date fund. Reason being is that the percentage of allocation that was towards more aggressive, like equity stocks, in comparison to what was allocated towards more conservative, like bonds, fixed income, we wanted to be more aggressive because I think that we can be more aggressive with the time horizon that we have before we would even access that account. So
it has served me well, because when I log into my 401k, I'm always very impressed with where it is based on what I'm actually contributing. And again, I do get a 4.5% match, but I'm glad that we went aggressive.
Yeah. So the way that a target date fund, like kind of the old rule of thumb in regards to how aggressive you should be versus how conservative you should be, is that based upon your age, give or take, a couple numbers, that's how much you should be conservative. It's kind of what they would say. So like if you're 30 years old, maybe a 70-30 split. If you're 40, maybe like a 35, between 35 and 40 being more conservative, and then 60, 65 being more aggressive. But I honestly think that you can be 100% equity at the age that we're at. We're 20 years or so away from retirement age where we would access these accounts. I think that's plenty of time to be more aggressive and take advantage of the growth. The difference is that obviously I do this for a living, so I look at this and I make changes as needed, as compared to the average person who doesn't have the knowledge that I have nor the time to do necessarily all these things, a target date fund might serve you perfect because it does all that stuff for you and you don't have to manually do it yourself.
Yeah, it really can be a set it and forget it type account, but you do want to make sure that you understand these nuances about your account and what's available to you before you forget it after you've set it.
And you should be able to find all this information through your online portal for your provider of your 401k plan. You should be able to find out, what the employer match is. You should be able to find out what investment options are available to you also. And they also give you information as far as you can click on these different options, and they give you a little bit more information about what the fund does, how it performs, historic performance, stuff of that nature, which can be a little daunting to read through, but I think it's a good practice to at least look at it. And if you have questions, obviously, you listen to this podcast, you can reach out to me. I help people with their 401k plans all the time. But knowing where the information is and understanding that you do have options is the big thing that I want to stress.
Yeah. What about people talk about pre-tax, after-tax, Roth contributions? What's all that about?
All right. So there are a few different ways that you can contribute money to your 401k plan. Now, what I mean that is that the only way you can really contribute money is going to be coming out of your paycheck, but there's different ways that the money would go into the account. So the one that most people are familiar with is the pre-tax contribution. So what that means is that the money going into your 401k plan or your 403b is taken out of your paycheck prior to taxes. So that money going in has not been taxed. Once it goes into your 401k plan, it's growing. And while it's in there, it's called tax deferred, which means that you are not paying taxes on it while it's in the account and growing. Now, when you do get taxed is when you reach retirement age and you start to withdraw money. The amount that you withdraw will be taxed at ordinary income tax rates at that time, whatever the tax rates are. All right, so that's the one that most people are familiar with, but there are some other ways to contribute to your 401k plan. Most people nowadays, honestly, may have the option to contribute Roth contributions to their 401k. Now, most people are familiar with some aspect of how a Roth IRA works. This is very similar. The number one difference being is that with a Roth IRA, in order to contribute just a traditional way to a Roth IRA, there are income limitations. And if you make, quote unquote, too much money, then you can't contribute directly to a Roth IRA. I know there's other ways to do it, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So the nice thing with a Roth 401k plan contribution is that there are no income limits. So it doesn't matter how much you make, you can contribute Roth to your 401k plan if that is an option available to you through your employer. And to kind of refresh your mind on how that works is that instead of the money coming out of your paycheck pre-tax, it's going to come out of your paycheck after tax. So you have already paid taxes on the contribution going into your 401k, 403b. All right. While the money's in there, it's growing tax deferred. And then the nice thing is when you pull it out in retirement, you are not taxed, obviously, on the amount that you put in because you've already paid taxes on that, but you're not taxed on the growth of it either. And that's a big thing.
So that sounds like a really good option if it is available because you're hoping that the money that you're making now is less than the money that you would make. For us, it would be, let's say 20 years from now when we are at retirement age, because of course you want your salary to grow, right?
So here's one of the benefits I would say from my viewpoint when it comes to pre-tax savings for retirement and post and Roth savings is that I like to control as many things as I can. And if I can take out an unknown, then I want to take that out. So one of the hard parts for us is that 20, 25 years from now, I don't know exactly what tax brackets are going to look like. I have no idea. I would honestly say more than likely they're going to increase. Reason being is that if you look at, taxes over the past, say, 100 years, we're almost at like a historic low when it comes to taxes. I know it doesn't feel like it for most people, but just strictly from a tax standpoint, income tax standpoint, we are at historic lows.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel that way.
Well, that's because things cost more. It's not from the tax standpoint.
Yeah.
But taxes themselves, as far as the percentage that they're taking of your income, is at lows. While we're still having all-time national debt highs and everything like that, I find it hard to believe that income taxes are going to go lower as compared to with our parents when they were our age and even, earlier than that, in the 80s and 90s, they had a higher marginal tax rate. And so they've kind of won out. They didn't pay taxes on the money back then. And now they're paying taxes on it in retirement in a lower tax environment. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the same case for us. So I honestly think I think it's great to have both options. So have some pre-tax money and have some Roth because it provides you flexibility. And the nice thing is that even if you're contributing Roth contributions to your 401k plan and you have an employer match, your employer is going to contribute pre-tax because they're taking their tax deduction. They're going to make you pay taxes on it. So even if you're just contributing Roth, you're going to have pre-tax money in there if you have an employer match.
Okay, so can you do a split? Like if you have an option, you
100%.
can do pre-tax and Roth?
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
then
have to be all or none. So like if you want to contribute,
nice.
say you want to contribute 6%, you could contribute 3% to Roth and 3% to pre-tax.
Oh, yeah. Is that something you see often with your clients or?
I mean, not really, be honest with you.
Because it costs the employer more?
No, it's not. No, you can do it. That's not the problem.
okay.
It's just a matter of making things as simple as possible for people.
Oh, and too many choices sometimes.
Yes, people just overthink things.
Yeah.
So like we look at their situation, and for example, if someone is just now coming to me and they've been working for 20 years and they've been contributing all pre-tax, so all the retirement income is pre-tax, then we probably want to go the Roth route because, like I said, it's always better to have that mix so that you have options
Right.
when you get into retirement as far as
Options are
flexibility
good.
standpoint. Now, there is one other way that you contribute to a retirement plan, like a 403b, 401k, and that's called after tax.
Okay.
Now, I do want to specify that after tax and Roth are not the same because I've come across numerous people who thought that they were contributing Roth and they were actually contributing after tax.
Okay. What's the difference?
So the main difference is that the after tax is mainly for after tax, in all honesty, is for high income earners where they're already kind of maxing out their contributions to
their other accounts.
to their other accounts, their 401k plan, and they want to do above the normal limit.
Okay.
So the after tax allows you to do that because it's money that's already been taxed when it's going to the account. Difference is that you will also be taxed on the growth,
Oh, okay.
but it allows you to put money away additionally
Okay.
above the normal contribution limits to a 401k plan, a 403b. Well, like it's also not to get too much in the weeds. It's some plans also allow for you to do what's called an in-plan Roth conversion. And sometimes you use that after-tax bucket to do a Roth conversion.
Got it.
But I don't need to go down that path. That's more of a complicated one that we can do one on later on. This is just to let you know that there are different ways you can contribute to your retirement accounts.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. I don't know that that's a common thing that people, one of the things that people always talk about is like, do you get a match? But I feel like that's really where the conversation stops. Is there a contribution max annually for what you can put into your 401k?
Yeah, there is a contribution max each year. And for this year, 2024, the contribution max is $23,000 if you are under the age of 50. If you are 50 years old or older, then you are actually allowed to contribute an additional $75 account.
Oh, nice. Because they want to get you to that retirement.
Yeah, just making sure, for example, it's for people like, for example, if you maybe weren't maxing out in previous years or you just weren't contributing as much as you would like to, this gives you a little bit more wiggle room to put more money away so that you're in a better place for when you retire.
How kind. What about if you don't want to wait or can't wait until retirement and you need access to all that money you've been hoarding away? What are our options?
So there are a few different options that may be available. So I'm gonna first focus on options available to, more focus on people around our age. So one of the things you might want to take a look at is see, does your 401k plan allow for what's called a 401k plan loan? So what that does is it allows you to borrow money from your 401k plan and then you have to pay it back. All right. Now this
So
is
you're borrowing money from yourself.
correct.
That's nice.
It's nice, but it's not one of those things where like I would advise people to constantly use this because, for example, say you borrow $10,000 from your 401k plan, you take a loan out. While it's not in the account, it's not there to grow.
Right. You're missing out on the growth.
Correct.
Yeah. We've done a previous episode on this.
Yes.
Taking a loan from your 401k.
So the idea is just, once again, knowing the features of your plan and in case you need to use it, because there might be a scenario where you just have to use this loan and it's nice to know if it's available to you. So you want to know, hey, do I have availability of a loan? What is the amount that I'm able to take a loan out on? And then also how many loans am I allowed to have out at one time? Because some plans allow for maybe one loan, some allow for two, and some don't even have that option. But the idea is that you just want to know beforehand, just in case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, there are some other ways that, if you are in a bad situation and you need money from your plan, you can possibly access it. There is something, often with these plans called a hardship withdrawal, where you are going through some form of a qualified hardship, and they normally have the details of what qualifies spelled out in the plan, but it would allow you to access a certain amount of money within your plan. The thing is, though, that it is still a withdrawal. So when you do a withdrawal from your 401k plan, 403b, prior to being 59 and a half years old, most of the time you are going to incur a 10% penalty in addition to paying taxes if that money is pre-tax.
Okay, so penalty and taxes.
Yeah, and the taxes aren't really the biggest part to focus on because you're going to pay tax on at some point. It's an
Right.
additional 10% penalty, which is huge.
Okay.
Now, you are also sometimes allowed access to money within your 401k plan if, for example, first-time home purchase. They might allow you to go ahead and take out a withdrawal for that as well. There would be no penalty associated with that, but you may have that available to you through your plan.
Only for a first-time home buyer.
Correct.
Interesting. Well, that's lovely. Very nice. Okay. What if I leave my employer? I know people have said like leaving your 401k with an old employer is like leaving money with an ex.
Well, I'm going to stipulate once again that it depends. All right. What it really depends on is how old you are when you leave the employer and what are your plans for after you leave the employer. So, for example, if you or I left our employer, I would probably recommend rolling it over to an IRA, whether that's a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA based upon the type of money that you contribute to the account, but rolling it over to an IRA, an individual retirement account. And the main reason for that is that, one, provides you significantly more options to invest. You have that limitation to, I think at most I've seen maybe in a plan is 20 options to invest in. And that's a more robust plan if it has 20 options as compared to thousands of options that are available to you in the market. So you have way more options available to you. Also, it's just easier to keep track of from a consolidation standpoint to roll into an IRA. If you left one employer, roll into the IRA, you leave your next employer, roll into the same IRA. It makes it easy to keep track of.
Okay.
Now, the one caveat I would say is that depending on what age you are when you leave your employer, because, for example, if you're someone that's maybe 55 years old when you leave your employer, you might want to keep it at that employer's 401k plan because you might want to utilize the 55 rule.
Oh, where you can actually access it at the age of 55.
Correct. There is a rule that allows you to access money within your 401k plan without incurring that 10% penalty prior to being 59 and a half years old if you were to leave your employer in the year you turn 55 or after that. So it might make more sense for you to leave your money there if you were looking to start withdrawing from it and don't want to have to deal with those penalties.
Interesting. But that then only works if you leave that employer, not previous employers.
Correct. Because you have to leave. It has to be an employer in which you leave in the year in which you left at 55 years old or older.
Okay. Well,
All
we're
right.
not there yet, but
But the
okay.
thing is that you have to leave it in the 401k plan because if you roll it into the IRA, that rule does not apply anymore.
Okay.
So it's really determining one, like I said, how old are you when you're leaving and what is your plan?
If my money is in an IRA, do I have to wait until I'm 59 and a half to access it, or can I access it at any time?
Well, one, it depends in some aspects. So,
If we had $1 for every time Brandon said it depends, we'd be in Bora Bora recording this.
well, it depends on what type of IRA you have. Because remember I said with the Roth IRA, the money that you contributed to it is after tax. You've already paid taxes on it. So you actually have access to your principal. The
Okay.
difference is that you don't have access to the growth on it. So that's
Until
59 and a half years old without a
Okay.
penalty.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm just making sure that it's still a retirement account where I have to wait until retirement
What do you mean by that specifically?
for the IRA.
Well, like I said, but the IRA, like for example, if you have a Roth IRA that you've been contributing money to for a while and you have it built up, you have a lot of money in there that's already been taxed, the principal.
Right.
So you could access that.
Okay. Got it.
I know a lot of rules.
Yes. This is why talking to a professional helps.
Like I said, like unless you're somebody that really wants to just get in deep with all this information and keep up with it and keep it, and like maybe it's just you enjoy it, great.
Who
But
enjoys this?
I think most people like they don't enjoy it. They have 1,000 other things they'd rather do, and they'll just get confused with minor things. And you'd be surprised that something you think is minor costs you a lot.
Yeah. Could cost you.
I mean, think about somebody who retired at 55 and they rolled the money over to an IRA thinking they could utilize the 55 rule. And now you got a 10% penalty for your withdrawals.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. Could be a lot of money. Could be a lot of money
It
for
can
people.
definitely be a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else people need to know about their 401ks, 403bs, their retirement accounts?
Honestly, I would say those are the main things that you need to understand.
Okay.
You know, I would say that's the normal, those are some of the details that I think a lot of people overlook and they don't necessarily understand and they don't take the time to. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to understand all these details right away, but start looking through your 401k plan. Like you should at least hop on the portal and just dig around in it.
Yeah. So if people are listening to this on their way to work today and now they're like, ooh, I want to go look at my 401k. What are the 3 things you want them to look at today?
One, you should be able to, if someone asks you how much you're contributing percentage-wise to your 401k plan, you should be able to tell somebody.
Okay, so figure out your percentage that you're contributing,
and
if there's a match.
Yeah, so like I don't necessarily like need to know like the exact dollar amount, but are you contributing 3% of your paycheck, 4%, 5%?
Yeah.
You should know that.
And you want to get your match, so you should be contributing up to whatever your match is.
The second part, you should know what your match is.
Okay.
And it's always also make sure that when you have your like open enrollment, and because companies could make changes to their match, so make sure you pay attention to that. Yeah, so pay attention to that.
And then what's the third thing?
Know what options you have to invest in and also know how you're contributing. Because like I said before, I had someone that I looked at their 401k plan. They were 100% certain they were contributing Roth. And I was like, I hate to tell you this, but for the past 5 years, you've been contributing after tax.
And those are
Roth.
not the same.
Not the same at all.
Yeah, so pre-tax, after-tax, and Roth are the options that you're looking for. So
And
know how
they're
you're
clearly
contributing.
labeled. So like if you see 3 different options, those they're 3 separate options for a reason because they're not the same.
Yeah. That's the one nice thing about finance stuff is if it's not the same, you will know because it'll be a different line item.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So go look at your 401ks. Hopefully this was a helpful episode to you. As always, share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with everybody in your network. And don't forget to leave those reviews. We can't say it enough. I mean, the amount of messages that we get saying, this was a great episode. Thanks for this information. I shared it with a friend. Like, we love those messages. Put it in a review. Please hit that 5 stars on Apple and on Spotify and leave a written review. It'll take you 2 minutes. You can do it while you're sitting on the toilet. Just get it done. Thank you. It means so much to us.
And if you need any help looking through your 401k plans, 403bs, to help analyze everything and understand, and also making sure that you're maximizing the benefits offered to you, please don't hesitate to reach out, schedule a time to talk with me.
Absolutely. Brandon's the best. I'm biased, but he is. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go.